Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
Watching, wherever you're listening, welcome to the Big Biz Show. Hope everyone is having a great day. We certainly appreciate you being along for the ride. Sitting here at the bar, Costa, Mary Godwin is our executive producer, and of course, Sully. Can you just hold on one second before you start the show?
Yeah, what? You hungry?
Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. I've got some goodies.
What is that?
This is why I don't have a Costco
These are red vines, and very soon on our wonderful program, the American Licorice Factory
Is coming on the air with us.
is coming on the air with us. Yeah.
This is why I don't have a Costco membership, is because I would walk out with 4 of these
Totally.
every time.
GTT, greatest in the
they're so
business.
good.
James?
Oh my God.
Who hasn't bit the ends off of both?
Here you go.
And put it in a
drunk
Coke.
Coca-Cola.
Oh,
Yeah, of course.
My favorite.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
do you use this to suck up Kentucky Fried Chicken gravy?
Wait, they're so soft. Okay, wait. They're,
Thank you. Oh, perfect.
These are the best.
fresh
Product
They're
placement.
fresh. I love.
Can I just say this?
Yes.
Nothing against our old sponsor that we
You put
got,
those right there?
Twizzlers, but this is this thing. What is it? Can somebody tell me the difference between Twizzlers and Red Vines?
Yes, I
Red
can.
licorice?
Yeah, tell us.
Oh, you tell.
Twizzlers is strawberry flavored plastic. Red Vines is licorice. Okay?
Oh, it's so good.
Now, where do we stand on? Can I tell you where I stand on black licorice?
I love black licorice.
Firmly on its throat.
Oh, you don't like black licorice?
I cannot. No.
I can't stand it.
So there's only 2 things I can't eat: truffle.
Oh, I'm with
black
you on
licorice.
truffle. I love black licorice.
You do?
Black licorice.
You like it too?
Like, remember, like I always wanted to eat Good and Plenty as a kid.
Oh,
Or Good and Plenty.
right. That's right.
It looked so good. It had black licorice inside.
You get the
Yeah,
little candy.
I
I
bar.
don't. I mean, it's
Can't
so,
eat fennel either. The
I can deal with fennel.
tastes too much like black
You
licorice.
don't like black licorice either?
No.
Oh, see,
What's wrong with black licorice?
I don't know. It's just that and truffle. Oh, let me tell you the other thing happened. I got sick many years ago.
Oh, that's all it takes.
Yep.
That's all.
No, it wasn't on something. I got sick very many years ago, and I was. You know how you hear people, they get sick or they get hit in the head, they come and they can speak French.
Yeah.
You've heard of these things?
I have
these
heard of that.
medical anomalies,
Oui.
right? I am able to eat sriracha as if it's honey. I am impervious to heat.
Seriously?
Okay, I can feel it and I can taste it, but I can eat the hottest hot sauce. So you know, you go to the farmer's market and they have the hot sauce guy with
Yeah,
right? He
yeah.
give you a toothpick full.
Yeah.
Give me a
Yeah.
spoon. He goes, sir, I can't give me a spoon. I want to taste it.
This is 6 million Scoville units.
Yeah.
It's the hottest
Right.
pepper on earth.
Nice pull on the Scoville.
I know.
Thank you.
I said, I
watch Hot Ones,
I
don't
carry
you?
a thing of heavy cream in my back pocket. I can handle. Apparently, milk or something is supposed to.
You're supposed to drink milk or ice cream.
But let me tell you what's happened is that when I taste habanero salsa, hot sauce,
Yeah.
super hot, I can taste the habanero.
Oh,
And I just don't care for the. You guys have never tasted it because you've never gotten that far into it.
No, I just
can't stand the taste of the habanero part of it.
I'll be
So
darned.
there's a few of them, but black licorice is one of them. But I will tell you, we're not going to say that when the American Licorice Factory.
hell no, we're not.
Is there a counterpart to red vines? Is there
Twizzlers.
no, I'm talking about. Did they make black licorice also?
Oh yeah, they make grape. They make I think they make green apple. There's a bunch of different flavors.
We need all the flavors here.
Well, here.
I'm
there you
going
go,
in
Mary.
here. I don't want your grubby hands on my.
Here's another thing that's
or my
maybe a
red vine.
line of disembarkation for people. I like to buy my tub of red vines at Costco, and then I leave the lid off for about 3 weeks.
Oh, wait. This sounds like Credit Crunch, what Rusty Nails used to make. He got high one night and he had no food. He took Cocoa Puffs and peanuts and put them together. It was fantastic. He actually left them in his car, let them bake for a couple days, took out. It was frozen one brick, so he activated it, opened it up, and it turned out to be that cuckoo nutty cocoa snack from the King of Snacks, Lord Russell's Credit Crunch. Is this sort of a Lord Russell's thing?
It is because they're great. Red vines are great.
What happens?
Fresh.
What happens with oxidation?
They just kind of get chewier and a little snappier.
I'll be darned.
Yeah,
I'll be darned. that
I
Mike knows.
never thought
Yeah.
you were an expert on red vines.
I walked into that one. I'll admit it. I did.
Red vines, one of Mike's blood types. Big
Red-
show.
rolls on live from the Loft 100 studios. Of course, that's the Day Trader Trio, live and in person right there. Here at the bar, it's Costa, Mary Godwin, Greg Todorov, and of course, Sully.
All right. We met a really great guy named Jeffrey Meckler a couple weeks ago in studio.
Yeah, we did.
And with Indaptus Therapeutics, they're publicly traded under the stock symbol INDP. And it was really this interesting conversation, not just about biopharma. What are you laughing at?
No, because we spent as much time talking about Ohio State football with
Yes,
him
we did.
As well.
I was just going to say.
Well, I had a
Tremendous guy.
20-minute one-on-one interview.
What did
We had a business focus. It was fascinating.
So and what did you learn there that you didn't? Was there?
Well, I learned he's from New York, and he told me about a lot of good places I need to go next week.
Jeffrey Meckler, I bring you the CEO, sir. He's a friend of the program already.
I don't think that's what the interview was
Oh,
supposed to be about.
darn it! You guys didn't
It wasn't a
prep me.
food show.
Yeah, Jeffrey, we didn't come back because we did a cooking show interview, and in reality, or some restaurant review. We're supposed to do something on your company. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Listen, man, great to see you. Glad that we're going to be covering you on a regular basis here going forward. Let's review and talk about, what does it mean to be a clinical stage asset company that's building on the hopes of tumor regression, I think is what you said when you were in studio last time. Talk about that.
So first of all, I think I failed the first test here because everyone remembers Ohio State football and restaurants in New York. But that said, I'm going to try again and tell you about tumor regression.
Thank you. Talk about that because you guys have this proprietary platform, and if I'm saying this right, you're exploiting. You said that exploiting bacteria, the ability to activate our own cells or something to that tune. I wasn't listening. I was thinking about the restaurants. So,
So the whole premise of our company is this observation that when people have bacteria infections, sometimes the cancers regress, and this goes back literally centuries. So what we're doing is utilizing that historic observation and pairing it with today's knowledge of immunotherapy. Particularly, we know what toll-like receptors and nod and sting, and they're basically names for all these different kind of agonists that exist that activate our immune system, and many of them are on gram-negative bacteria. So we essentially took the gram-negative bacteria, we engineer it in a way that we can safely give it to humans, but still use all of those immune agonists that are on the bacteria. I love that video, or I love that visual there, that slide, because it shows how we engage both different parts of the innate and the adaptive immune system. So most modern therapies, whether they're checkpoint inhibitors or CAR T, they're really attacking or activating one part of the immune system, where we're doing it in this broad general sense.
Jeff Meckler, CEO of Indaptus Therapeutics. Their ticker symbol is INDP. Jeff, as you peel back the layers of this, as you continue to go on, you find out, is our body set up? Have our bodies always been set up for this type of immunotherapy?
Well, look, what cancer is just your cell programming gone awry. Mm-hmm. And this happens all the time. And in most courses, your immune cells pick up on it. This cell didn't divide right. This is not forming right. And the B cells, the T cells, dendritic, macrophage, they all kind of in coordination go after these things. Cancer occurs when, for whatever reason, that doesn't happen. And then the cancer really kind of resets your immune system. It systemically reprograms it to do the Jedi mind game, saying, these are not the cells you're looking for. And then the immune cells go and bypass it. And what we've learned over the last couple decades are there are certain ways we can trick the immune cells to get back to doing what they're designed to do. So the short answer to your question is we've always had this ability. But what happens in cancer is, for whatever reason, our body seems to miss that particular cell type. And all we're trying to do is reset it so the body can do what it's designed to do.
Jeff, since you were here at our studio, you folks released your fourth quarter year-end 2024 financial results and gave us an update, which was pretty interesting stuff because some of the milestones you hit that we sort of glossed over in studio because we didn't have enough time are pretty significant here. And if you go back and kind of look at how you were communicating with shareholders last year, you kind of told everybody that all of this was going to happen, and then you delivered on it. Talk about some of these highlights.
Well, what we're really proud about in the fourth quarter release is announcing that we passed this threshold of 20 patients that have been being dosed weekly. And a few of them have what's considered stable disease, which means their diseases, we scan the cancer, we pick lesions, they scan them again in 8 weeks, and they see if they've grown. And if they haven't grown meaningfully, we call that stable disease. So what we're seeing is two things. One, most importantly, we've been able to dose more than 20 patients weekly, and we're seeing some safety out of that. But we're also seeing a glimpse of some immune activity. Now, we also know that from our immune profiling, we are kicking up the immune system. So this is kind of a crescendo, and it's building for when we later in the first half of this year announce and start dosing in the combination therapy. And when we do that, that's when we're hoping to see real signals of efficacy. And again, this is something we expect this year to really dig into. And how many patients we get, all of that will determine when we dose our first patient. We have a very staged, safety-oriented approach. And so the first few patients will be slow, but once in the second half we get going, we hope to see the results. And the one thing I can promise your viewers is we'll give you the results. I can't promise it'll work or it won't. If I could do that, there are a lot of other things. But, we've been very proud over the 3.5 years, which is a really short time in biopharma, to go from creating the company to getting a clinical trial started to getting a proof of concept study started.
Hey.
And this has always been for us. We thought we would, 4-ish years, we'd be able to get an answer. Does this stuff work the way we think it does?
Jeffrey, remind me, is there a specific cancer type that you're going after, or is this just general solid cancer tumors?
So what we're starting with are solid tumors. We have a subset of solid tumors that we're going after, and essentially it's hepatocellular, liver, pancreatic, head and neck, breast, colorectal. These are cancers and they're advanced stage patients of these cancers, but they're solid tumors that we feel from our preclinical have the best chance for us to see a signal.
Hey, Jeff, so part of the milestones obviously were the new patents in China, Japan, Israel, and such, but one of the highlights was in respect to getting clinical trial authorization from Health Canada. That was a big one. That's pretty significant stuff. Talk about that and what that opens the door for.
Well, Canada, how do I say it? Canada is a great place to do clinical trials. We have always wanted to open some sites up in Canada from the fact that there are Canadian researchers there, investigators who share our passion and also have patients that we really want to access, particularly like hepatocellular carcinoma. We haven't done a great job recruiting HCC patients so far. And part of it is the sites we currently have are not big HCC sites, where in Canada there are a couple that we plan to join. But just getting Health Canada on board, there's lots of questions. We're still having conversations with them, but they gave us the green light a few weeks ago. And what we hope to do is when we start enrolling here in the combination study later this year, that we'll be able to access these Canadian sites and get the hepatocellular carcinoma patients.
Quickly has become one of our favorite guests, of course.
No, he's the favorite.
Okay.
He's the one.
He's the favorite.
And you'll see him again. I'm making him come on the air every week with us just so we can have a little
Please
more love.
do.
He's going to come back in San Diego very
He is Jeff Meckler, CEO, Indaptus Therapeutics, their ticker symbol, and DP.
More to come. Big Biz Show. BigBizShow.com. Stand by.
175 countries, all the ships at sea. As always, we say a special thank you to the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces. We always thank the DTT as well. Day Trader Trio. Back here at the bar, Mike, Marybird Godwin, Greg Todorov, our executive producer, of course, Sully.
And we have a special guest right here in the biopharma center of the universe.
We do.
California. You might be watching us in New York City, you might be listening to us in Texas. You might be watching us in Dubai because of American Forces Network in 175 countries and all the ships at sea. But you're probably watching us on BizTV in 125 million TV homes every night. And Mike, what do you got here?
Mr. Jim Joyce, who has been a friend, a former neighbor. That's how much of a friend he has been to.
Is that before you were evicted, or was it
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the Funyun dust?
He had us kicked out of the neighborhood.
Jim was the one that called the cops.
That's the
CEO,
email I got. Hey, got to talk to you about your partner on the air there, big fella.
CEO of Sigyn Therapeutics, Incorporated, their ticker symbol, of course, SIGY. He is also an inventor and a former Denver Bronco.
Are you really? You play for the Broncos?
Sure did.
No kidding.
One of the best to ever come out of the University of Maryland. I'm done blowing sunshine.
Wow. Thank you.
Well, as a Raider fan, I can't believe you even mentioned it.
I know.
Well, once he found out I was a Raider fan, we kind of
That's when you moved, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
So Mike lived across the street from us.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, I welcomed him to the world headquarters of Sigyn Therapeutics.
What's your garage?
We started. It was a plastic Costco table. I opened up the garage, and people walk by, and I'd be
Jeff
like,
Bezos.
"Welcome to the world headquarters of Sigyn Therapeutics."
Jeff Bezos with a
that
dot
really when it
matrix
started?
printer.
It is.
Yeah, that's right.
I would go down our street with our leaf blower, and they'd look, and there's Jim at Sigyn
Trying to cut a
headquarters.
deal, and you're out there, perfect time.
Now look at him now on the Big Biz Show.
Biopharma has taken quite a journey in the last few years. 2022, 2023, really hard for biopharma companies. JP Morgan comes back last year at the beginning of 2024 and says, this is the year, but you're not going to raise money the first quarter. Sure enough, you could raise money the second quarter last year, and then the whole thing, once again, started waning again and had a really tough 2024. It seems as though capital markets are open for biotech, biopharma. Seems like things are looking good now. It seems like you went through the worst of it.
Starting to open up, but if you're an investor in small cap or micro cap, you better know your CEO well.
Yeah. Well, listen, but I'm talking about as a group, I think you're at the right place at the right time now. You come to me in the middle of 2023, I'm thinking, man, you were swimming through cement. Everyone was in your industry, don't you think?
No, that's very much the case. But I think there's a transition in our industry as it relates to therapeutics, against emerging infectious disease disorders or sepsis or things of that nature, where there's a trend that, trend towards medical technologies, blood purification technologies.
Well, and I think that's, and you're the new frontier here, hence the word sepsis that we've heard about. And I have an aunt that is going through that right, like as we speak, as we're interviewing you here. Talk about the problem, talk about the solution, talk about this new industry that's emerging that you guys even announced in a press release a few days ago.
Yeah, it's an emerging new industry, like 20 years in the making.
Yeah, that's how it always works though, right?
Yeah, that's how it works.
We just found out about today, so it started today.
Yeah. So sepsis, this is a dysregulated immune response to infection. So it's the transition. If somebody's suffering from a life-threatening viral infection like COVID-19, when it becomes a severe infection, it transitions into sepsis. Sepsis in general, number one killer in U.S. hospitals, 1 in 3 deaths.
Because it's antibiotic resistant, is it not?
In many cases, yes. But something that's fascinating about sepsis in general, and this was learned, as devastating as COVID was, sometimes we learn things that really weren't known before. But there was a study of individuals that was severe COVID infection at George Washington University Hospital. And they enrolled 96 individuals in this study. And they quantified that these individuals, 95 of 96, had circulating bacterial toxin called endotoxin. And this
circulating back. That means it's circulating. That means it's not here anymore. It's over here now.
It's in the bloodstream.
Oh man!
But it's one of those riddle me this moments because only 3 of the 95 people diagnosed to have circulating bacterial toxins actually had a bacterial infection. So one of the things we learned with COVID is that when you have an infectious response, the immune system responds, it produces pro-inflammatory cytokines. The overproduction of pro-inflammatory cytokines, called the cytokine storm, and a lot of people heard about that phenomenon with COVID. But what they didn't recognize is that inflammatory process creates permeability in the intestinal wall, and it leaks out your natural
gut.
bacterial. Yep. And this is the potent activator of sepsis. And we didn't know this. I was involved in a DARPA program for 5 years to develop devices to treat sepsis for wounded warfighters. We didn't have any idea that this was an important component of sepsis. So now we know dampen down pro-inflammatory cytokines, address the pathogen source of inflammation, but also address these bacterial toxins.
So what is Sigyn doing? Is Sigyn do we have a pathway here for a treatment? Do we have a candidate? Are we on the way there? Or
yeah, we're getting ready to head into human studies. We've done.
Boy, that's big.
Yeah, since Mike, I waved to him in the morning. Going by the World Headquarters.
I was the catalyst, by the way.
We conducted a whole series of studies at University of Michigan that demonstrate the ability to address these bacterial toxins, broad spectrum viral clearance, as well as being able to dampen down excessive, inflammatory cytokine production. Then we moved into animal studies, and now we're getting ready to submit what's called an investigational device exemption to FDA to initiate studies to address this endotoxemia and.
Can I make the assumption that since, as you mentioned in the beginning, that it's the leading cause of hospital mortality is sepsis, that your addressable market is endless for something like this?
It's large, but we also have a strategy from a clinical standpoint. We have an early clinical and commercialization strategy to start off in dialysis patients. These are end-stage renal disease patients who are being treated 3 times a week, 4 hours of treatment. These individuals suffer from endotoxemia that's created by the inflammatory response to the regular dialysis, and it shortens their life. Average lifespan once they're on dialysis is 5 years. It's the same markers we're looking at in sepsis, but in this indication, we don't have to wait for anybody to come into the ICU. No. They're already in the seat.
Greg, this is good news. You said we were going to be scared. I think this is good news.
Well,
I feel good about what I'm hearing.
There's
There's part 2.
Completely different book that I was referring to.
Jim Joyce is the CEO of Sigyn Therapeutics. Their ticker symbol is SIGY. Jim, to the point that Greg talked about, the next big pandemic or what's going on over in the Congo.
What's it going to be? What's the next cootie going to be?
I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff floating around.
Oh, great. Here's chapter 2.
There it is.
Chapter 2 is among us.
I'm going to get my mask. I'll be right back.
It used to be like, okay, bird flu of 2009, and that'd be a concern for a few years, and then there'd be the next thing, Zika pop up or whatever it might be. But now everything's just like looming at the same time. And the ability to monitor these diseases is getting more and more challenging.
Stay here. You're not going anywhere. This is like the mob. We're keeping you here.
We want to make Greg cry.
Yeah.
So chapter 2's here, and Greg's not going to be part of the show until next week. Mary's out there buying masks. So it's just me, Mike, and Jim.
All right, Jim Joyce, CEO of Sigyn Therapeutics. Much more to come. We hope the news is better as the Big Biz Show rolls on. Keep it here. We continue from the Loft 100 studios, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Appreciate the ride. That's the Day Trader Trio. Here at the bar, Costa, Marybird Godwin. Our executive producer is Greg Todorov. Sully's here, and Jim Joyce, CEO, inventor, CEO of Sigyn Therapeutics. Their ticker symbol is SIGY.
You go to SigynTherapeutics.com. You see there on the screen here. For our radio audience, just go to our website at bigbizshow.com. You'll be able to find out how to get a hold of these guys and take a look at the 11 most remarkable advances in healthcare, which is what you invented here. Is that the same thing as this, or is that something different?
It was previously. We started off previously, I founded a company here in San Diego, took it from single shareholder startup to over 10,000 shareholders on NASDAQ. And we developed the first in industry blood purification device that was the first therapy of its kind approved to treat a pandemic virus by FDA, and that was Ebola virus. And that was, awarded with a multitude of awards, top invention at Time Magazine, top 11 medical breakthrough. But that was a first generation product. That was limited to broad spectrum clearance of viral pathogens. What we're developing now with Sigyn therapy is a device that can have broad spectrum clearance of viral pathogens, address these translocated bacterial toxins, and dampen down the excessive inflammatory response.
The inflammatory response seems to be a buzzword, just like sepsis is these days. Not to minimize what you guys are treating, but when it gets to the regular population, now it's a buzzword. Something you've been working on for 15 years. Talk about with respect to the sepsis response and the next pandemic that we talk about. It all sort of falls into one thing because you've got sepsis, you've got pandemic, we got inflammation, we got cancer, it's kind of one long tree. And this is the bad news chapter 2.
They're all connected.
Yeah.
They're all connected. And something that was remarkable with COVID-19 was the ability to have vaccines developed within a year. Preventative vaccines.
Let's stop down there for a second. Because what I think many people don't know is that vaccines are a recipe where you plug in the cootie. So you're not reinventing the wheel every time, correct? Am I accurate in saying when vaccines come out, we don't have to reinvent from the start? Because I think one of the big misnomers during COVID was that we rushed to a vaccine, when in reality, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, didn't those vaccine companies just get to skip the line and that's how it was done so quickly, or was it rushed? Because I think the FDA is a long, arduous process just because of the amount of NDA that goes out there. So what really happened?
So I was in a program I mentioned earlier, this DARPA program to advance blood purification therapies. Parallel DARPA was a program to accelerate vaccine production, vaccine development and production based on mRNA vaccines. And
acceleration, does that mean rushed or does that just mean accelerated?
It means accelerated development.
Okay, so is that a bad thing potentially?
Well, if you look at the journal Lancet, they had a publication on the advancement of the Moderna vaccine and then the other vaccine, and they projected that in the first year of the availability of that vaccine worldwide, it saved between 14 to 18 million lives.
Good thing.
So it was very powerful. But what it changed was the environment. Vaccines preventative. What are post-exposure therapies? So historically, the fastest vaccine development in history prior to this was 4 years. And so you would never know if a vaccine would be developed or not. So they were always competitive with antiviral drugs.
So there's the question. 4 years for vaccine development versus 8 months is what we've witnessed in COVID?
It was putting the vaccine in people's arms within the year.
Was that because the FDA was able to assess this, or was that because the science was solid, or we just don't know yet?
I don't think you can say definitively. The problem you have when you have a new outbreak, you use the perfect word, assess. So how do you treat it? If you have a post-exposure therapy, how do you, like we're developing, how do you run a controlled study? You can't. And the government legislation says there's a reliance on animal models. But for most of these emerging pandemic threats, there is no animal model per se. So there's challenges.
So wait a second, so on that subject, we don't know what you don't know during that process.
That's correct.
Now, you're the guy to ask this question to, okay? 5 years post-COVID, 5 years post the beginning of COVID, okay? What would you do differently now, knowing what you know now in your own business, knowing what you know, what we've all experienced, and you seeing, and you have a unique, seat in the stadium on this one. What would you do different? What do you think we should have done different? What would we do different next time to make this more? I can't say the word palatable, but make it so.
Well, I think there's some basic things like have masks available. That's probably a good start.
PPE.
Right. But as it relates to responding, vaccine development, I think, is critical, but with the ability to develop vaccines at a rapid pace, the whole concept historically of trying to also develop an antiviral drug, which starts when a new virus emerges, and that can take 5 or more years, that's no longer an appropriate post-exposure strategy. Right now, post-exposures are predicated on what we're doing with blood purification technologies. And they're also important because they can not only be first-line countermeasures and be available right at the outset of an outbreak, but they also have commercial applications in mainstream medicine. So it's not a countermeasure that you worry about being put in the stockpile and then expiring and having to be repurchased every 3 years. This is something that there's an inventory. It can be used for mainstream medical indications.
So what's going to be? So is that the treatment? What's the treatment strategy going to be, in your opinion? And the next is it? Because you were just talking about having a stockpile, but then maybe not, knowing that we can depend on that stockpile.
Well,
what's the treatment strategy?
Well, I'll replay what happened with COVID-19. First 4 therapies approved to treat COVID-19. They were not a vaccine, not an antiviral drug. They were all 4 blood purification technologies. One was for pathogen control.
What was that called again? I forget the name of that, because I remember that. It was called. Do you recall the name of the?
The pathway was called Emergency Use Authorization Pathway.
Right.
And the first 4 therapies under this pathway were blood purification technologies. One to control infection and address the pathogen itself. The other 3 were designed to dampen down excessive pro-inflammatory cytokine production. Our device performs all of those functions, plus it addresses the bacterial toxins that locate from the gut, leak into the bloodstream, and cause a very dysregulated immune response to infection. And that was not known as being a primary target at that time.
So wait. So does that mean we're in a better spot now than we were? In your opinion?
I'd like to think so.
Okay.
What about
back to chapter 1?
What about the plexiglass shields in restaurants? Do we go back to those too for the next pandemic?
The sneeze guard?
Well, because the bacteria would stop at the plexiglass. It would never go higher than the plexiglass either.
His name is Jim Joyce, CEO, inventor, Sigyn Therapeutics. I've got a question for you, because I did some research, and this also goes into chemotherapy, which you guys were talking about with the therapy, in terms of delivery method, correct?
Yeah, this is a pipeline product, but we were dismayed. We initiated a relationship with some researchers who were trying to improve the delivery of chemotherapy, as well as immunotherapeutic antibodies, and we were dismayed at how poorly these compounds are delivered. In both cases, chemotherapy, typically less than 3% of the drug is actually delivered to tumor cell targets. The rest is off.
Even with all this targeted tumor therapy we all hear about, and on the TV commercials and the radio and so on and so forth.
Well, the targeted therapy, then all of a sudden you have an antibody component that can selectively target where it's going to get to. But antibodies bind exquisitely to receptor targets that are on the cancer target. But these receptor targets are oftentimes in a lot of other places that aren't the targets, and those act as decoys that intercept.
So you're putting the drug in place that doesn't belong.
Yeah. So we've developed intellectual property to take immunotherapeutic antibodies, attach them to a bead, put them in a blood purification device, and sweep out these decoys prior to the delivery of the drug itself.
What are you most excited about for the rest of this year, as much as you can share with us as the CEO of a public company, in the next 5 years? What are you most hopping up and down about right now?
Well, I think what we're doing in cancer is very executable, but the clinical study we're getting ready to kick off with our lead product, Sigyn Therapy, that's a real value driver for us, because this is a small feasibility study, 12 to 15 subjects, and we successfully navigate through this, then we can bridge into multiple pivotal studies as a device for approval into indications such as the ESRD indication I mentioned earlier, emerging infectious disease, and sepsis.
So in the capital formation problem that we saw in biopharma the last couple of years, you guys have a runway for your studies and stuff? You feel pretty good about your...
Yeah, our cost of running this study is pretty minimal. And we have a good collaborator from the dialysis industry, one of the leaders in the industry there. And we've always been very cognizant of being, keeping our burn rates low, so we can have flexibility to do things.
Well, it's good. I'm feeling better and better. I still feel better than not.
Craig, you feel okay?
Yep.
Well, I'm all right.
Okay. Jim Joyce, CEO, Sigyn Therapeutics. Of course, their ticker symbol, SIGY. I was there on day 1 in his garage.
Hey.
Thanks,
coming in,
Sully.
man.
Appreciate it.
Incredible
Have you
growth.
back for sure.
All right, keep it here. Lots more to come with the Big Biz. It is, wherever you're watching, wherever you are listening, we always appreciate you being along for the ride. The handsome guy talking to you right now, it's me, I'm Costa. You're welcome, America and the world. That's Greg Todorov, our executive producer.
Do you put the Costa are you like, what is your 23andMe heritage? DNA?
Oh, I'm Scotch Italian. And a little.
That's one thing you don't see very often. Order a plate of lasagna and a Scotch neat.
Yeah, I'm cheap, but I'll kill you.
Right.
Wait a minute. You're Scotch and Italian.
Yeah.
Oh, because you're thrifty.
Yeah.
All right. Remember
the Steels from Nebraska? What? Pretty good. That's a pretty good Scotch, right?
I need Scotch now.
It's a little. Okay, I'll just
let it go in the ether.
Yeah, let it percolate.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. There's no going.
But I want to know. Like you said, I'm drunk, but I steal from you. Is that what you said?
I'm cheap.
Oh,
and I'll kill you.
No, I got,
Yeah, you were close, Sully.
two of the four sins. I'm sorry. My bad.
That's Irish and French.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Listen.
true.
Jonathan Javitt, of course, good friend of the program, founder, director, chief scientific officer, and now chairman of the board of a company called NRX Pharmaceuticals. We've talked about suicidal ideation. You're going to see their bizumentary. Yes, thanks. I get paid a nickel every time somebody says it on TV.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The bizumentary is coming out here on BizTV as well as on Bloomberg and potentially coming up on Bravo. Or I beg your pardon. Bravo? There's Ovation. Bravo. Ovation, right? See how I get mixed?
Both great.
Long story short is, we have a pretty good press release and things are moving forward. We've talked to Mike Taylor, our financial expert, about Hope Therapeutics and what's coming from that. News keeps getting better for NRX, and guess what I got? Because we're important. Jonathan Javitt's here. What's up, bud? Great to see you. Hey,
it's been a busy week.
It's been busy. Let's talk about, I want you to take it away because it's some pretty good news today in the market in terms of investors believing in NRX by putting in some money into the company. Talk about that.
Well, we're excited that one of the better and more thoughtful biotech funds out there, Anson Funds of Toronto, chose to bring in what will be between $10.5 and $16 million in convertible debt, and that's enough to get our drugs filed with the FDA.
It's interesting. We were talking about this the other day with Mike Taylor, who's a financial expert on the program, who I know you're familiar with, saying that it's a different type of investor that takes literally the long soak. Mm-hmm. It's a fishing term. Thank you very much. Let's talk hookup. But it's a 7-year turnaround oftentimes for a startup investor into a biopharma firm because you got to go through FDA and you got to go through the bells and whistles. And oftentimes you got to raise money in between. So it's not a small task for a company like yours to go raise money. And it's a testimony to investors believing in what you're doing. So that's some good news.
Well, and in our case, it's been a brutal task. We started this company in 2015, and I went and saw the usual venture capitalists, and they all asked me the same question, which is what keeps you up at night? And I'd always have the same answer, which is, I worked on the SARS epidemic in the Bush administration, and a global pandemic would be really bad for our business. And because we're making the drug in Shanghai, which we're not doing anymore, a trade war with China would be really bad for our business. And they would all laugh. Well, it turns out we got both of those. And we survived both of those. And now we've got drugs that are ready to file with FDA and hopefully be on the market in 2025. So it's an exciting time for us.
Hey, Dr. Javitt, 2 questions for you in terms, I want to get to the drugs in a second. I want to talk about, you talk about 2025. Do you expect to take this to market to yourselves, or do we do what they call that risk aversion model and have a larger biofirm come in, pick up the ball, take it to the finish line, and you're working on your next drug? Can you share what your thoughts are on that?
Certainly for ketamine, which is a drug that's not a home use drug, it's a drug that's going to be given in clinics. We know who those clinics are. We're already working with those clinics, and through our Hope Therapeutics division, we expect to own some of those clinics. So when you've got a potential customer base that's under 1,000 people, there's no reason to work with a large pharmaceutical company. They can't really address a market that small, that compact, very readily. So we're certainly going to do that by ourselves. Now, our second drug, NRX 101, that's anticipated to be a home use drug, is one that'll likely be prescribed by fewer than 1,600 psychiatrists in the United States. And that too is a footprint that a small company can address, although a highly motivated partner would be great to have.
So, in my opinion, for you, you now have runway to complete the drug task, and then let's bring up Hope Therapeutics, because I think that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Can you share on that, where this puts us now?
Well, we have runway, we have a motivated investor, and we've got data that keeps getting better. So we've been talking about data that we're going to be presenting to FDA from about 1,000 patients, showing that ketamine is better than placebo, it's better than active comparator, it's as good as electroshock therapy for treating people with suicidal depression. Well, just this week, a study of approximately 43,000 patients, not randomized and prospective the way the FDA wants, but an observational study, what's called a cohort study, was published in a leading journal, showing exactly the same effect for ketamine in reducing suicidal ideation and depression. So we have a drug that patients need, that's rapidly becoming the standard of care. That's a life-saving drug, and that's an exciting place to be.
Dr. Jonathan Javitt, founder, director, chief scientific officer, NRX Pharmaceuticals, on the
Not
NASDAQ.
to mention chairman of the board.
Chairman of the board, excuse me, sir. Also NASDAQ, NRXP.
Howie, you got a question?
Dr. Javitt, pleasure to see you, sir. Congratulations on the deal. How important is it? I noticed that Anson Funds came out with a very strong statement saying, we believe in the science, we believe in the long-term vision. How much more efficiently are you operating with a partner rather than, someone that wants a deal done quickly?
Well, I think that it's a challenge in this market to find an investor who's committed to long-term success and not just committed to how quickly can we churn the stock. As we've all seen, there are too many technical investors, and we've suffered from some of those. But the problem in the biotech market is investors who are going to take a long view, who are in the company to make patients' lives better.
And
not to be out next month.
I think the story is that after today's deal, you're past that. Well, maybe everyone else isn't.
I would agree. Yeah. There you go.
Well,
Big Biz Show. Dr. Jonathan Javitt, chairman of the board, CEO, chief scientific officer, director of NRX Pharma. That's some good news. You will look for the Bizumentary on NRX and suicidal ideation coming right here on BizTV. More Big Biz coming up tomorrow. See you then.